Good morning, everyone. My name is Leah Love, and I wanted to actually give a preliminary review of Connections Academy homeschool program before we get our day started. I do have my cup of coffee here, so excuse me if I take a sip here and there. I had been freestyling homeschooling for many years prior to making this switch. Connections Academy is a K 12 program, so it is basically public school but online. And my children had been used to a much more steady, peaceful pace. I've tried a few different programs like Time for Learning online, working with all books and workbooks. And so this is the first time that they joined a program where they actually had to communicate with teachers. And so, to be honest, the program thus far, it is requiring a huge adjustment on our part as a family because, first of all, it's just a robust, very huge, ecosystem, so to speak. The kids have their emails, they're constantly getting emails every day from all of their teachers. They do have a planner set up where they have to get their daily lessons that pop up into their day planner, their electronic day planner. They also have live lessons with each teacher per subject 1 day a week. And sometimes they have two. They may have science one and an art one where they have to actually have their headset and webcam set up, and then they log into Adobe Connect where they can see their teacher on the live webcam and they can see some of the other students. There's all these chat boxes going on. And they record them. So if you can't make it, you can always watch it later. I will have to say that it's a particularly challenging for me because I have a second grader and I have a sixth grader. And for the lower elementary levels, you as the parent, you're called a learning coach. And especially with the second grade, first kindergarten, first, second grade, third, I think all the way basically through elementary, but it's supposed to get less and less each year. But I literally have to sit with my daughter, my second grader, all day long. And I don't mind that as much. That's not the issue with me, but it's just that it's challenging when you also have a sixth grader who has even more work to do. And just based on the level where she's at, she requires a lot more of my time and attention. And so you can only imagine when like they're both taking a unit assessment test at the end of each unit, there's like a little assessment that they have to take. And so I'm having to like literally sit between them at this long desk that we have. And I have to like literally roll my chair back and forth between each child, just to make sure that they're understanding it. My daughter is just my sixth grader. She just requires a little bit more time because she has so much work in each lesson. Sometimes takes an hour and a half to 2 hours just for her personally to get through tons of reading. So when you open up a lesson like in sixth grade, and it's like that for second grade also, but they're going to give you your key objectives. They're going to give you your keywords that you're going to learn during that unit. Then they're going to, you flip the computer screen page, whatever, you click to go to the next page, and then it's the actual instruction starts somewhere in the middle of it that you got to click on a link to go to the online version of the textbook. Then you've got to read like 5,000 pages in that part. Then you go back to your unit module, and then you need to click something else to open up a document that you've got to download, answer on that, go back to the thing again. And it's just pages and pages and pages of this. And depending on your child and the way in which they learn, their attention span may not be that much, or at least after having already done, a social studies, chapter on, ancient Mesopotamia, which was really intense information. And it might be like, 15 pages in that actual unit module that they're flipping through, but it's tons of literature. Then they've still got to click on the online textbook and then read more literature there and then come back. And by the end, they've got to do the assessment. And by then, her eyes are just like, okay, I'm so good. So then we have to, get up and take a break. Then you go into your math, and that's like pages and pages. So for me, for my second grader, I feel like she's fine thus far, even though sometimes it just gets long. Um, because she'll have like 4 different lessons in that day. So she'll have a language arts, a social studies, and then maybe 2 math lessons. And then the next day it might be digital art plus, still language arts is every day, but it might be then the reading circle and then another math and then a science. Um, so for my second grader, she grasps things very quickly. And we did just do the state testing. And we may find out that, she would probably need more of the gifted program because she's just breezing through everything, even though it's time consuming for her. And for a second grader to sit for that long, she'll get up and start hopping and dancing around while she's, listening to one of the cute little videos in the modules that's talking about pronouns or whatever. They have a lot more little short videos with these little animated characters. This little lion and ladybug is for the math. So they do watch a lot of little short video clips as part of their lessons. She's just breezing through it. And so that's why I'm like thankful, but at the same time, the whole text is written, read with your learning partner, this, and this. And so then you've got to sit there and read it with them and then flip the page. And now let's watch a little video. And then while she's watching that video, that gives me like 2 minutes to turn around and then look at my sixth grader and see what she's doing. And she might be looking out the window. So I do like the fact that you have every 2 weeks, I have a call with my sixth grader's homeroom teacher, and he's been very helpful, very understanding, wanting to help and do whatever. We are having some challenges with the math, so the math teacher has called and we've talked and whatnot. So as far as the teachers I've had, they've been supportive. You do get a lot of phone time with them. But the thing is that the pressure for the students, for me, I've noticed with my children, is that let's say they have a set of classes that populate in their online planner. Today, you've got to do this at 10 a.m. You've got a live lesson. Then you've got this stuff and all these things that you have to do during the day. Well, if you get to the next day and you haven't completed those lessons, then they pop up under as overdue lessons. And then let's say like Friday, they had some pre-assessments, like statewide pre-assessments that were online tests that weren't to be graded, but they just want to see where the students are. And that was apparently only supposed to take 1 day. And it took my daughter like 3 days to get through it because it was just a lot. And so that means that she didn't do her regular schoolwork Friday and then into Monday. We did it Saturday, took her Saturday. We did a little bit of it on Sunday and then she finished it on Monday. So that means that, the schoolwork from Friday and then Monday wasn't done. And she was already still had a couple of classes, a couple of units from like the Thursday before and the Wednesday before, because we were taking more time with her math. So that means that she had already accumulated overdue lessons. And then because of this test, we had to take off and do more lessons. And so there develops a level of anxiety in the children because they're so young and they're like managing this entire ecosystem. And then yet they've still got, all of these overdue, it's like in red and overdue. And if you imagine, they already know how long it takes to get through one lesson or one unit. And now you're seeing 9 overdue lessons. And that develops a level of anxiety, even in myself. And so that's one thing that I would say is a con, if I want to talk about pros and cons, to the system, because if your child doesn't process online reading, like bulk of reading and whatnot, in a certain way, that it takes them a little bit longer just because of retention, or sometimes their mind wanders, and sometimes it's just so much print on a screen that it can become challenging, and then they feel like they're not doing enough or they're not doing their best because no one likes to see overdue. Imagine, how you feel even like in college when you're past due on, your stuff. And so that has been stressful for us, I will have to admit. And I just feel like personally, a lot of it's busy work, to be honest. And at least for the sixth grade, she didn't get as many textbooks mailed to us. A lot of it's just more online. Whereas with second grade, my second grader got a lot more textbooks and workbooks. And so, you say, well, if she's tired of looking at the screen, just look at the book. Well, she didn't get a lot of the books. And I mean, it is supposed to be an online situation, but it's just something to consider your own child's learning style and, how they will react to that. In addition to what I just explained in terms of their online modules and then having to click to go on the internet to go to the online textbooks, there's also these massive message boards. And so for each group, or for each grade, you have your own like message board that's set up in Google Docs. And, every Monday they get this newsletter and there's like all these links per subject. Don't forget this week, this test is due. And don't forget that. Don't make sure to check the message board for the updated links to the live lessons and make sure to do this. And it's just like, it can be very overwhelming, I think, for new students. And a lot of people say that, and a lot of people acclimate to it. And after the first semester, they kind of get in their groove. So when you click on that Google message board, then it's like slides, but it's all kinds of clickable links to course resources, to previous live lessons if they want to review a lesson that, they just didn't get. Then there's live recording of pre-test studies. There's a Dropbox where they have portfolios I still don't fully understand that, where they have to turn in certain assignments and it's supposed to like appear magically in the actual day-to-day modules that they go through. At some point, they have to do projects and like upload it to the Dropbox in the in the message board. And if you can just imagine being like 12, I know it's the information age and these kids are just doing so much online these days, but could be me and my age. But I'm just looking at all of this like, whoa, like what is going on? And it's organized. I'm not saying it's disorganized, but I'm just saying that it's such a vast system and there's just so many places you have to go and to click and to grab this information and to pull this study guide and as you can see, it's overwhelming. So not only that, because I'm used to more of a relaxed curriculum where they don't have to interact with, actual literal teachers, and it's more myself assisting, but they can kind of go through it per subject at their pace. Because we're used to that, now being into a whole system that is just like time based and it's just so much that they have to grasp and massage and maneuver at such young age that it is something to consider. I will just say that I had no idea that it was this much. I will say they have a lot of training for parents, which is really awesome. They have a lot of orientations and some of them are mandatory that you as a parent have to do in order to keep up with your stuff. And you do have to record their attendance every day through the parent module. And so if they get too far behind, I'm sorry if I'm jumping all over the place, but it's just a lot. And if they get too far behind, like I mentioned before, with the overdue lessons, eventually they will be considered as being truant. And so, when I talked to the her homeroom teacher about that, and I said, it's taking us a lot longer to get through a lot of these lessons. And so when it gets up to 9 to 10 overdue, that's panic moment. And then if it gets too far, like let's say we haven't been there yet, but let's say a child has like 15 overdue lessons, even though they're still diligently working every day, eventually it'll get flagged, I guess, by the state, I don't know, education board or something as like a possible truancy. Then you've got to get in with the counselor and whatnot. But my daughter's teacher said, you know what, we understand that there are variances in terms of how a child, you know, utilizes the program. And if we see that the child is consistently working, they're clearly logged in, they're clearly going through unit lessons. We might give you a phone call if it like 10 overdue lessons last for 3 weeks, like they're constantly overdue at that length or more, that, we might give you a call and say, hey, is there something we can do to help you out? Something we can do to adjust the way in which they're going about the lessons that could maybe speed it up a little bit for them, or maybe look at other options. So I did like that. I like the fact that, at least her homeroom teacher is, you know, um, easy to work with. And he kind of eased my anxiety about that, because I don't want to get messages from the state. I don't know, whoever it would be, talking about that we're being truant, especially when we're literally sitting at that computer like 5 to 7 hours a day. And sometimes she'll go back after dinner, and just because she wants to get caught up, or um, and whatnot. And I even explained to him there's times where we're working on weekends too. And he said, absolutely, you should not have to be working on weekends. Let's look at this. So we switched up the way in which her lessons show up in her digital planner, because whereas before, I set it up where it was math and English and social studies a little bit each day. We switched it last week to block study, where it's like, okay, on Mondays, even though language arts has to be done every day, I can't switch that at all. I can't adjust that in her planner, but I can the other lessons. So we decided to do math, like math, all on Mondays and Thursdays, so that she wasn't having to switch from reading these exhaustive tests on ancient China for social studies, then this exhaustive stuff for language arts, and now still go into math, which she struggles with a bit. Like, it was just too much for her to be doing all of that switching back and forth mentally during the day. So we're trying out now just dealing with basically language arts and math on one day. Then Tuesday, it's going to be social studies and a little bit of science, Then Wednesday, something else, and then go back to math. And so we're hoping that might help her retention and her attention span with it. Because she's able to sit for long periods. And even when I'm telling her to take a break, she's like, nope, I got to get this done. But we're doing things like, it's kind of hard to get them started in the morning. So we've just started a workout program where we do ballet in the morning, or, lift some little weights and get their body jogged, get their, get them revved up. And so, and they said actually that, they feel much more attentive when we do that in the morning before they start their day. And then I regularly get them out, after 2 hours or so. They go outside and play for a little bit, then lunch break, and then we'll go for a walk in the afternoon. And so just getting them outdoors, and I know it's going to get colder, so that's going to be more interesting. But hopefully that will help also to just kind of make them not feel like they're just slaving away at this, abundance of schoolwork. I just feel like it's a lot. And I've definitely had to readjust my days as a stay-at-home wife and mom. I feel like I'm also chained to the chair so much more. So it's been really difficult. I've had to kind of put my own, at-home business on hold a little bit, because I found that I had more flexibility with the other programs where I could set them up. It wasn't as just intense for them. And so they could just work through it. If they had a problem, they could call me and I come and sit with them and we work it out. But for the most part, they were able to get through their lessons. And that would free me up to be able to do my own business things, or, cook dinner or cook a meal, you know what I mean? Or clean the house. Like, I was able to do those things in a much more regimented schedule for me, because I have a ton to do at home. But now, literally the entire day from the morning to the night, I'm sitting with them. Or at least the evening, but then, we do have to run out for our extracurricular and whatnot, but it's just taking up a lot more time for me as well. So it's been a big adjustment. And that's really what I wanted to share with parents, especially those who might not have been in other robust online programs, but you were doing more workbooks and just more low key, that still got the job done, but in a more relaxed atmosphere. If you are going to do a switch to a program like Connections Academy or something, definitely be aware that it's going to be a huge shift, because not only do you have the learning curve of the entire digital ecosystem that they have, but it's going to be a switch in your rhythms and your energy and in your home life, because it does require your presence, especially if you have elementary and middle school children. So I just wanted to, excuse me, share my thoughts thus far. We're going to just give this, through the end of this semester. This is my first semester, and because even the enrollment process was a lot for us, because we didn't have certain things that they needed in place in order to enroll. Like, you had to have been a part of a homeschool association. Well, in Georgia, where I lived before, we didn't have to be a part of an association just to homeschool our children. And so that was something I had to work around. I didn't have that documentation. I had a different type of report card system or whatever, so I didn't have the documentation like they wanted. Whereas if your kids were in public school and now you're just doing the online thing, 9 times out of 10, you pretty much have everything you need. So it's going to be a lot easier for those who were just on land public and going into online public. Like it's just not the same thing as being full on, freestyling homeschooler or unschooling homeschooler. You got to jump through some hoops to get everything in line. So it took me a couple of weeks to get them enrolled. So we were a bit late. We were about 3 weeks late getting into the school. And that was another thing. So then they missed a couple of those weeks that the other kids had already worked on. So it's been it's been interesting. I can definitely say that. I do like some things about it. I do like that. I feel like they're, to a certain degree, being challenged. It's a different set of information. And they've been challenged. But on the other hand, I think I'm probably about 50-50 in terms of pros and cons. And I'm going to give it to the end of the semester and then consider some other programs. I'm going to start researching them now so that we don't start the semester late should I decide to switch them out. I just want to kind of get through this. I don't want to pull them in the middle of what they're doing. I just want them to get established in terms of being, at least having a documentation of the work that they've done thus far if I need to now enroll them somewhere else. So we'll see. I will probably give another review at the end of the semester, maybe during winter break, just to give you guys an update. If you have any questions, of course, put it in the comments section. I'd be more than happy to help, with anything. I'm still a newbie in the system, so I might not be that super helpful, but at least I can answer any questions you might have. And, again, we all want the best for our kids. We want them to have the best education. And we all have our various reasons for why we are homeschooling. But I just feel like I don't want to turn my children off of learning just because they're just so stressed out about it. Well, my second grader is fine. But, the older one, she's not hugely stressed. It's just moments where she just is like, oh, this is overwhelming and I'm done. And then we just get up and walk away and do something else. And I told my husband last night, I said, you know what? I'm just not going to do this like stress thing anymore in terms of it taking over our life. It feels like just during this acclimation process. And I'm also going to go at our pace, the overdue or not, whatever it is. I want my daughter to actually learn and retain rather than just kind of flying through stuff because she's feeling like she's behind and she just wants to get caught up and just get through it. And then her grades will, tank. And I want her to actually learn. I don't want her to just be reading for the test or just be reading through stuff to say she's done it so she can check that off of the list and say it was done and just move on. That's not the purpose of education for us. So that's why I'm being very careful with watching, engaging the way in which it's affecting them emotionally, and if they're starting to be turned off of education. All of that's really critical for me to pay attention to while we're going through this process. So that's why I definitely want to update you guys. And we'll see how it goes. So thanks so much for listening. I hope this was helpful. If you're looking for an update, maybe you can subscribe or share this with another parent who's interested in Connections Academy. They have one in each of the states, and so we're in the South Carolina Connections Academy. So that's it. All right, thanks guys, have a great day. Bye-bye.